And welcome back to Think Global, Do Justice. Hope everyone's doing well. It is June at time of recording, and a good opportunity to have a conversation around global sport. And because the World Cup starts this month, and that's exciting. That's something to celebrate. So I have maybe my most trusted podcasting friend joining, as well as another. But before we get into the interview, I do want to give a shout out to our partners at the Accord Network. If you guys are involved in global development, humanitarian work, and you love Jesus, the One Accord Conference is the best spot to jump in. So in October, the One Accord Conference happens. It is in Washington, D.C. If you use the code GLOBAL, you can get a 5% discount on your ticket. So please join the One Accord Conference put on by our partners at the Accord Network. Guys, I'm really looking forward to this conversation today because, before we hit record, we're always bantering around, but even more so when it is this particular guest, if I can call him a guest. I'm joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, the one Mr. Phil Darke. And also he brought a friend, Roman Khripunov, and we are going to talk World Cup. We're going to talk sports ministry. We're going to talk how to reach the nations through sport. But I got to come to you first, Phil. Phil, welcome to the show. How you doing, pal?
I'm just like in awe of the incredible sign-in, like just capturing the audience, the sponsor, the discount code. I mean, this is like,
See
I
if
don't
anyone
even
uses
recognize this anymore. I'm like, what have you turned this into? This is official. This is legit, man. You're awesome. I don't think I've seen
your
you this
perception.
red for a long time, bro. Like I'm just in awe. That's all I'm saying.
It's it's
I miss this. I miss you, man. I miss
Hey,
our
we miss you too, pal.
just being here, being with the the global orphan care, global development, just our people. And
You're
so
back,
anyway, dude. I'm excited. I'm excited for this. I'm also stoked that our audience. I can't believe we never had Roman on while I was officially part of it. But I'm also excited to be a guest. Like, that's one thing I have never been. You've been it more times than most on
That's
Think
true.
Orphan, and now I get to be a guest.
The tables are
not even
turned.
A host.
The tables
So
are
I gotta
turned,
just
bro.
shut up because I'm not the host. I gotta just let you do what you do. So let's go.
Official. You just use the word official. There's no more official position in this podcast community for Think Orphan, Think Global, Do Justice than Phil Darke. I mean, bro, you founded this. You are beloved in this community, and it's good to have you back, guest or host or otherwise. We love you. We revere you. Welcome back. It's good to have you, bro.
Wow. Okay. Well, I revere Roman, and so let's get to Roman.
Yeah, let's hear from Roman. Roman, on the one hand, we have Phil, who started this podcast and is always welcome. You are also welcome because you're his friend, but I'm not very accustomed to letting Houston Astro fans on to the podcast, and we are talking sports today, so consider yourself privileged, but it's also a blessing to have you. Tell us a little bit, Roman, about you, about your ministry, and the unfortunate aspect of being in Houston, where you guys have one of the worst baseball teams in the world. Anyways.
At least this season, one of the worst baseball teams, unfortunately.
You guys need to bring the trash cans back. Then you'll be successful again.
I'm missing them. The stadium is once again fully empty. Ticket prices went down from, $60 on average to like $5. So it's a great time to go, except you will watch your team lose 24/7. But an honor to be on this podcast. Love Phil. We've been friends for a long time now. Time just flies by, but we've traveled the world together, been to a few countries together, and really know each other well, which is pretty incredible. Yeah, I live in Houston, Texas. One of the hottest places, most humid places in the U.S. I think some people are still enjoying great weather. We already are high 80s, low 90s, getting ready for the summer to come. But originally I'm from Uzbekistan, which is a country in Central Asia. And since I'm on a Think Global, Do Justice podcast, I think most people know where Uzbekistan is located. Usually when I'm talking to people have no clue. They just think I'm from Afghanistan or Pakistan, but I'm from Uzbekistan. Grew up in a family there. My mom is a first generation believer. I never heard the name Jesus or the gospel until she was 16 and watched the Jesus film, which transformed her life. And she gave her life to Jesus that night, and like a complete turnaround within 24 hours. And my parents both launched a sport ministry to reach their friends who are not following Jesus in Uzbekistan. And as they were doing it, as it was growing, Uzbekistan also became seventh most persecuted country in the world. So grew up in an environment where, if you are following Jesus, most likely you will lose your friends, your family members, your job, you will be fined. You might be thrown into prison for years. And we have had a lot of friends who spent half a decade in prison because of their faith. And so in 2006, the Uzbek government found a way to get rid of my parents, and we got deported. We were declared spiritual terrorists. That's what my mom's documents specifically say. We were declared enemies of state and had 48 hours to leave our house, our apartment, pack everything, say goodbye to our friends, our family, and move. Never thought we would move to the U.S. Tried to live in Eastern Europe or Russia. They also didn't want us. And so moved to the U.S., to Houston specifically, as refugees in 2008. So already a long time ago. So I've been living in Houston since 2008. My dream was to move to Sacramento, where Phil is located, because that's where my whole family lives, my extended family. That's where all the Russian speaking people go. But my dad said, no, God is calling us to move to Houston. And, at first I hated it. I didn't like it here. I didn't speak any English, didn't understand culture or anything like that. So it's hard to start life from the very beginning. But God really showed us the beauty of Houston. Houston is the most diverse major city in the U.S. We also have the most languages spoken in Houston, more than any other city in the world. Over 150 languages are spoken on the streets of Houston. So God in his sovereignty is moving the nations here, bringing people here. 50% of Houstonians speak a language other than English at home, which is incredible. 1 in 4 was born outside of the U.S., so 25% of Houstonians are foreign born. And I just found this out, that 50% of kids have at least one immigrant parent in Houston. And so like my children, I'm an immigrant. My wife is from Houston. And so it's a beautiful, beautiful city, beautiful place. And so never wanted to be in ministry. But when we moved to Houston, my dream with my brother Pavel was we want to play soccer. We want to play sport on green grass fields. Like we lived in Uzbekistan where we played in the mud with ripped up ball, barefoot, nothing, no cleats. And we were like, finally, we're going to have an opportunity to play like what we saw in the movies while living in Uzbekistan. Went to our first club tryouts and made the team. And then they sent us the bill. And my dad said, yeah, you're not playing any sport. Like, we just cannot afford it, especially for both of you, paying over $2,000 a year each, plus jerseys, plus tournament fees, plus whatever travel we might have to do. It was just not feasible. So my dream of playing soccer deflated, like went away right away. I was like, okay, I guess it's not, for the poor immigrants and refugees in this country, which is sadly still true. On average, it's $2,500 per child to play any sport in the U.S. If your child plays travel sport, average cost right now is $25,000. $25,000 to play travel sport. Phil would know much more about it. His kids probably all play travel sport. But to me, even now, it makes
the Lord for scholarships. That's all I got to say.
There you go.
Yeah. And so when we were 16, we visited a place in Houston, just about 15 minutes away from downtown Houston, because we've met a couple of soccer players from Burma, Myanmar, which has one of the longest civil wars in the history of the world, still happening there. And so a lot of refugees from that part moved to Houston in that early 2010s. And so we went to visit them. And I was just 15, about to turn 16. My brother was finishing his 8th grade, going into high school. And we showed up to this apartment complex, to this street, and we've never seen poverty like that in our lives. I'm even growing up in Uzbekistan, never seen anything like that, where dads are hunting birds in the parking lot so that they could feed their families. Dads are having identity crisis because some of them, we're engineers, we're lawyers, wherever they're coming from. And now they cannot even get a job at Target or McDonald's, and they're working for cash under the table, being, cheated. And we saw kids from an early age, playing soccer on broken glass bottles in the middle of nowhere. Drugs are everywhere. And it just broke our hearts because we moved as refugees here, but we are living on the north side of Houston because so many churches heard our story, adopted us, got us an apartment, and now are all these refugees here who have nothing, completely nothing, who are struggling so much, and there's nobody to help them. And I remember one of the first, maybe second or third visit there, we met a boy named Johnny, and Johnny was 15, covered in tattoos, head to toe. Covered in tattoos, using their tribal method, with needle poking, which is extremely painful. And he came up to us and he said, you guys going to be like all the other Christians we've met who are going to show up and do an event for us, and we will take pictures of us and we'll never see you again. And that's already the image that so many refugees in Houston built up, that, churches come, they take pictures of us, maybe they'll bring us food or something like that, but there's no ongoing relationship, which was really heartbroken. And so in that moment, my parents challenged us and they said, what are you going to do about this? If you feel hurt about the situation, if there's need here, what are you going to do? And so my mom, who's a prayer warrior, she said, I want you to go and prayer drive for 8 weeks, once a week here. So I just got my license and just seek God. What does he want you to do here? And so we would drive an hour from Houston is huge, massive, driving is 45 minutes for us is like nothing. It's going like 30 minutes. We're in the same neighborhood. So driving an hour one way, going and just prayer driving the area. And we noticed, number one, nobody's investing into the area. There are no public parks. There are no soccer fields, playgrounds where kids can play. Even schools don't have anything like that. Number two, just kids are outside. Hundreds of kids are outside. If you go to a white American neighborhood, no kid is ever outside. That was cultural shock for us. We would walk outside and nobody's there, but hundreds of kids are outside and nobody's actually helping them understand life in the US. Nobody's sharing the gospel with them. Nobody's helping them understand college systems, high school systems, which are so just complex. We had to have hundreds of Americans explain them to us and help us apply. So we just felt like, we want to launch a soccer club for them where they can play for free, don't have to pay. And our coaches will be father figures, mother figures for them, stick alongside them from first grade to 12th grade and on. So that was our goal. The problem was we were still in high school. But God said, look, I will provide. And on that last week, as we were prayer driving, we saw this church called Chinese Bible Church that was just walking distance from the apartment complexes. It's the kind of church that is only open on Sundays. We knocked on the door. Old Chinese man opened the door. And he's like, what are you guys doing here? And we said, look, you have some property here that is completely unkept. Can't we mow the lawn here and use it to play soccer with kids who live in the apartment complex here? And he said, as long as it's free, we can do it. We cut our grass, recruited my 3 cousins who were triplets, ages 14, to become our first volunteers. And we launched this program. First practice, we had 75 boys that showed up from Burma, Bhutan, Nepal, Thailand. Then it was 100 boys, 150 boys, 200 boys from all over the world. And now we had to start driving there, 6 days a week. So I would pick up everybody after they're done with school. We would drive out there, coach there till 9 p.m., spend time within the community, drive back. And so that's been our full-time job. So we provide free access to sports to all kids. They don't have to submit any financial papers. They don't have to submit their tax, forms that their parents fill out. Nothing. We don't ask the questions. We don't ask anything. It's all free. Working with local school districts, and now God is opening doors for us to launch inside schools mentorship clubs that happen during school hours, where we allow to mentor, to share Bible stories, have Bible classes. Kids are allowed to leave their classroom actually to come to one of our Bible classes. And the big heart for us also, 40% of the neighborhood where we serve, kids don't have a father at home. So they're
Yeah.
growing up fatherless. And we know if you're growing up fatherless, that already sets you back.
Right.
And so really providing father figures and providing special clubs for these kids where they can learn what a father would teach them and really help
Yeah.
them along the way. So it's been a
That's
huge
good, man.
blessing, a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that. I want to go back to your kind of origin story for your family as well a little bit because, first of all, you mentioned the prevalence of mixed status families in Houston. That is true in a lot of metropolitan areas, and I'll point our listeners back to the previous episode that we had with Matthew Sorens from World Relief, where we were talking about what effect that has on families that are coming from other countries and what mixed status looks like, especially in the current immigration environment in the U.S. Uzbekistan, as I'm familiar with it, is majority Muslim. What does that interplay look like, just briefly, between the persecution that your own family faced in being forced out of your guys' home country?
Yeah. So Uzbekistan is a very different country now. There's a lot more freedom now than it was before. When I grew
Okay.
up, it was the same dictator for 40 so years
Oh,
that
wow.
was in charge of the country.
Was
And
it
so,
more tied in with like being behind the Iron Curtain? But then you said like mid 2000s, so that's after the end of the Cold War.
yeah.
Like, what was that dynamic like?
So it was really more tied in with Uzbekistan after the breakup of Soviet Union wanted to create their national identity.
Hmm.
Because everybody spoke Russian, all schools were still in Russian. So as I was growing up, there was already a division of like, okay, there will be some schools that will be Russian, some schools that will be Uzbek. And now it's mostly like we want to go back to being all Uzbek. So religion was seen as, Christianity is a Western religion, doesn't define us. It's
Hmm.
actually against who we are at the core. So most persecution came from the government. I wouldn't say it came from the people. We had a lot of
Yeah.
great Muslim friends who loved us, and even when we were declared terrorists, spiritual terrorists, they wanted to help us in any way that they could to
Right.
keep us there. So most persecution was government enforced. It didn't come from the people. But things are really different now. So when I used to live in Uzbekistan, there were only 7 registered, Protestant churches, all churches there. I think it was one
Mm.
Orthodox church, one Catholic church that I remember, and a couple of Protestant churches across the country. Now that it's a lot more open, and Uzbekistan is trying to get tourists to come now, and so like as an
Okay.
American citizen now, you don't even have to have a visa. You can do a visa online. It used to be like very hard for any Americans to get visa, and so you grow up in that environment. I think also I think growing up in a Muslim country is very similar to growing up in the US, where everybody kind of feels like or says that they're Christian. There was a lot of nominal Muslims there who like said that they were Muslim, but never attended mosque, never really did any of the things. So it was very similar to that. But I think one of the interesting things, though, in Uzbekistan, when I was growing up there, I thought that all Christians experience persecution. I thought that's what it means to be a Christian.
Hmm.
And so when I moved to the US, I was like, oh, actually, you don't, what it means to be a Christian is showing up to church a couple times a week and then live your life the way
Yeah.
you want to live it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a funny dichotomy because, Jesus says, hey, they'll hate you because they hated me. And sometimes it should actually be a check on us if we're like, why don't people hate us?
exactly.
And it's funny that you said, in this country, in terms of Christianity, I'm just thinking you're in Texas, which likes to think of itself as its own country, and maybe there. I live in Seattle, Tacoma. It's definitely not like, oh yeah, everyone's a Christian here. No, that's
That's
not
true.
like people. That would
That's
not be the case.
so
The
true.
other thing I've
Um,
noticed about Texas, Brandon, because on my soccer podcast, I guess I got to call it a soccer and leadership podcast. That Paul Jobson, my co-host, is from Waco, and the first thing Roman talked about on this show was the weather in Texas. I feel like everyone that you talk to in Texas tells you the weather, and then somehow works in how great they are and how
yeah,
great the state is and how it should be, except that now they don't want anybody else moving there, especially from California. So
yeah.
it's this interesting conversation now, especially from
Houston,
California. But no one
Houston in
talks about the
particular.
weather in Washington.
Right.
unless they're
No,
complaining.
well, no, they do. But
Yeah.
it's different weather, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Phil, I'd be interested. A lot of what you guys do at Providence World, you've increasingly engaged in this sports ministry space as well.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you guys are still
Mm-hmm.
doing orphan care in Honduras and other things as well. What is it about discipleship as it's linked to sports ministry, as you've seen it in your work and people that you collaborate with?
And we've talked about this early on in Think Orphan days. I've talked about this when I was writing In Pursuit of Orphan Excellence, and even before that was, I mean, soccer is the world's most spoken language. And sports are things that, whatever, if you figure out the sport in the country you're going to, you can connect with people all over. When I went to India, I'm like, well, I guess it's not soccer here, it's cricket. So you better learn cricket if you're going to do ministry in those countries. Partly because you can just go onto a field, throw a ball on the field, and kids will come. And then when kids come, the adults are trying, what's going on? Why are they, what are they doing? Who is going on? And they'll be a part of it. And if your kid's part of a team, the parents will become part of that in some way, and you'll have access that you would never have. Coaches, what was it? Billy Graham, I think, said, a coach will have more impact on a child's life in a year than a pastor will, than anyone else will in a lifetime, right? And that's a reality. I don't know if it was Billy Graham or somebody else, but it was somebody said that. Somebody who's the big time guy. And so that's so true. And so, when I started, when Roman and I met, it was right after, right when I was starting the podcast, the soccer podcast in 2020. We met, and I didn't know what God was doing for with ministry wise. I thought, okay, maybe I'm supposed to go into sports ministry, and God said, well, you're not released from the orphan care space. And I was like, all right, I don't know what that means. That's not language I normally use, but what does that mean? What does that look like? And so the more I started looking through it, the more it's like, it's a no-brainer. It's like, why are we not doing more of this together? Why is the sport movement not part of every ministry movement in the world, and vice versa? Because sports is the great connector in most countries. Now, not everybody is a sports person in every country, but most people at least understand sport. And if they don't, well, you can connect on some other way. But most people, and if you go and talk to leaders, you can use sports analogies and they'll understand them. But also, just like World Cup, as we're talking about, and it might be a segue into that and talk about Nations United and stuff that's going on with World Cup. But with World Cup, I mean, everyone outside the U.S. is like whatever, U.S. is playing. It's even here, and people hardly even talk about it. It's just kind of weird. But you go to other countries, they're shutting down everything when their team's playing in a World Cup game. In Brazil, literally, if you're outside during a game, you're probably watching on a TV somewhere outside, but everyone's inside. And if they score, literally buildings are rocking. And that's most countries. If their team makes the World Cup, that is a unifying. Ivory Coast stopped their civil war during the World Cup. Like it's crazy what happens. And so why are we not leveraging that? Why are we not able to come in and to be able to say, if we want to strengthen families, sport is a huge way to do that. If we want to teach resilience, sport is a huge way to do that. If we want to teach all these lessons we're talking about teaching and all these things we're talking about doing, alleviate poverty, we can get into communities way easier. In the orphan care space, I know it was always, how do we connect with these communities? How do we get in? Because no one really wants to talk about this stuff. We don't know these people. We don't know what. I'm like, throw a ball on the field. Everyone's going to come out. You're going to, let's just hang out, right? And I think teams get so like, what do we do? How do we do it? How do we connect? What are we going to do? Let's go build a house. Like, that's not going to, it's not like that doesn't help. That might help in some areas, but it also might do damage, as we've talked about. But playing with people and getting to know people, you're not going to do damage. Now, I will say, as Americans, let's be careful where we're going to do a soccer clinic, because most of the countries we're going to, they play better than us and they're doing more soccer. And so who do we think we are? Especially when it's a girl who's in drama class and she's going to a country to do a soccer clinic. Let's think twice about that. But that's a whole different conversation for another day. But I think that there's so many opportunities. And so I just love seeing how God moves through sport. And even seeing now, if you're paying attention, people are doing more than just bumping their chest and pointing to God. You're seeing Arsenal. I'm not an Arsenal supporter, but you're seeing Arsenal there's 6 dudes who are having a Bible study every week. When they score, they're on their knees, they're praying, they're it's not just something they're saying, it's something they're doing and living out. And people are asking questions. Liverpool had team baptism at one of their team hotels a few years ago. It's so awesome to see this
Yeah.
groundswell, and people are not ashamed of the gospel, right? And they're saying this is what it is. And so it's just a great way to see it. Anyway.
Amen.
Yeah.
No, that's so good, dude. Yeah, it is one of those unique spaces. I mean, I think, like you said, it happens with various sports. I was actually at an event here, an Ed Stetzer event here in the Seattle area, and one of the speakers was the chaplain for the Dodgers, who's also a professor at Talbot, and it was awesome to just kind of hear some of what, and I see it with some of our players. I know I keep talking about Dodgers, but that's as well. Dodgers, Lakers, and I love World Cup. I should have worn a Cristiano Ronaldo jersey. That's what I used to wear around Real Madrid.
I'm almost
Oh, really? Are you a Ronaldo fan?
Big Ronaldo fan.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's why you're on the show. I kept scratching my head like, why am I having an Astros fan on here? Okay, it's because we're both
he's a
Ronaldo
refugee.
fans.
It's a refugee. You got to
He's
have
a refugee. He likes Ronaldo. All right, we'll give him a pass in baseball.
We are on global development podcast. So that was, that's why I brought him on. He's my token refugee, Brandon.
Token? Oh, no tokenism here.
Those who know me long enough, that was a joke. If you're a new listener, I am a bit sarcastic, so that was a joke.
We don't have any new listeners.
Clarifying.
We don't have any new listeners. They're just
course we do.
Since you left.
It's everybody now. If we don't have any new, then hello to the old.
Hello to the old
so grateful
and the new alike.
to see you.
But it was interesting hearing him kind of just talk, and we see it. Some of our big players, Andy Pajes, Alex Call, like these guys are Teoscar Hernandez, like these are like legit followers of Jesus. Obviously Kershaw, was as well. But I love that. I love highlighting that. I don't want it to be, just kind of like, oh, let's, elevate these certain players, because really we want to look at it as not just like, oh, okay, good, we have a handful of Christians that are like legit Christians in, these big teams, whether it's Liverpool or LA or whoever. But really as a mode of discipleship, which is what you're kind of talking about. I'd be kind of interested, Roman, if you could even speak to briefly, in terms of, Phil was discussing how sports can kind of be an impetus, kind of like an evangelistic, initiation into a community. But obviously discipleship goes beyond evangelism as well. What does that look like for Revival Sport and what you guys are doing?
Well, I think, a lot of people have this quote and they say that sport builds character, which I believe it doesn't. What sport does very well is reveal character and reveal what you're struggling with. And it shows every time I play with people, it doesn't matter if they're Christians, not Christians, if they're pastors, not pastors, everything just comes out. There's just like, all of a sudden you like, oh, you struggle with anger, or you're struggling with some sort of sadness. And so for us at Revival Sport, we see sport not as just first like step in entering a community, but something where we stay a long ways with people. And so what it looks like for us at every practice, we've integrated what we call Discovery Bible Study into our practices. And so when kids are warming up, we will ask them, what are you thankful for? Developing their gratitude and worship to God. What stresses you out this week? How can we pray for you? But also, how can we serve one another? What are the needs of your community? And how can we as the team meet those needs? So some people might say, hey, my apartment complex has been so dirty. Like we've had multiple parties that came through, and usually nobody cleans up after those parties. So glass bottles are everywhere. And we as a team, literally as a soccer team, would walk over there and clean it out together. Then as we practice, we connect. What I love about soccer and working with kids, and not just kids, is that the skills that we're learning on the sports field or court or gym actually translate into everyday life. And so, for example, when we talk about heading the ball, you're required to have a lot of courage. Every time you go up, you don't know how hard the ball is coming. You don't know how high you're going off the ground. You don't know if somebody's elbowing you, pushing you over. You have to have courage. And so we begin talking to kids about, what does it look like for you to be courageous today in your life? Maybe where are you a coward today? You're running away from responsibility. And then we connect it to a Bible story like David and Goliath. And then we ask them all the time, how are you going to actually live out this story? How are you going to obey it? Doesn't matter if you follow Jesus, don't follow Jesus. We say just try applying the story into your life. And then we ask them all to share it with at least one person every single practice. And so next week when they come back, we then ask them, how did you obey? What happened? And then with whom did you share and how did it go? And so for me, this process just keeps going and keeps going. So usually when we first get to know kids, we take them through what is called the big story of the Bible. It's 20 soccer practices from creation to Christ. Then we take them second season through the Gospel of John, and we really show them who Jesus is using the I am statements. And then they can make a decision. We don't force decisions, every single time, or, you only can come here if you're a Christian. And then we go into life habits of disciples, what it means to actually follow Jesus, and then hot button issues. And so it's been a lot of fun seeing this. I think, I've done so much
Yeah.
refugee ministry, from ESL classes to food banks, clothing stuff, to so many different classes and helping people understand real estate. One thing that I think sport does that nothing else does in that space is actually attract men, mobilize
Mm,
men. Like I've noticed maybe in other cities it's different, but in Houston, ESL classes don't usually attract a lot of men
mm,
because men don't want to look, foolish trying to learn a
right.
new language. Or they're usually not showing up to collect food packages from a church because they might be at work, or again, it's honor shame cultures. But when you're watching games, I'll tell you, like, my brother and I lived in this apartment complex where we're the only ones who could speak English. We couldn't connect with men at all. And one day we decided we're going to just put a screen, a big screen with a projector. And it was a boxing match, Canelo versus Triple G. We're going to show it. And 150 men showed up. They started cooking tacos themselves. They brought their own beer. We didn't say they couldn't, but all of a sudden they connected with us. They understood who we are and what we're trying to do. And I think that's the most powerful thing about sport. It connects with children, youth, but also men really want to be a part of something like that.
Yeah, amen. No, that's so good, and I love that approach to bringing in the whole family and fathers and men being such an important part. I want to get into kind of the occasion even for this conversation and talk about the World Cup. Um, I will take some predictions as well. I will just say it was so much easier to follow global soccer when I lived in Tanzania than it is here when living back in the States. But Phil, you alluded to this earlier, but what type of I actually see some of this stuff happening here in Seattle. We do have Lumen Field's going to be one of the sites, and we have a number of nations that are coming into our metropolitan area. I'm pretty sure Houston is the same as well. LA, LA is a host site. I don't know. Do you have any in NorCal?
Santa Clara.
Santa Clara. Oh, okay. Levi
Yeah.
Stadium. That makes sense.
Yep.
What's some of the coordination that Christians are saying? Like, look, we have nations that are coming into our own backyards. This is an opportunity here. Phil, what are some of those kind of like broader initiatives where Christians are coordinating around using this global event?
I'm going to let Roman go into the details of Nations United because he has actually put on Cup of Nations and some of the festivals and some of the different things. But I can tell you that it can go from simple to very sophisticated. Now, I would not recommend sophisticated at this juncture since we're a month away. We're actually in the month when and it only goes through the middle of July. So I would say simple things, watch parties. A watch party. You just have neighbors, have different people, especially, find people, just say, hey, if there's some people in your community that are from one of the countries that's playing that day, a week before, 2 weeks before, say, hey, we're going to watch party at our house. I'd love it more than anything if you could bring some food from your country that we could celebrate, that and just cheer on with you, or at a church. I know at one of our local churches, I've been working with them to they're going to do it with the first US game. The hope is I guess the second US game, whatever, it doesn't really matter which one, but just do it for a US game, for another big game. or one again that your community, has a lot of people. I know last World Cup I watched the Iran US game with a few guys from Iran, and it was such a great. Most of the day was not talking about soccer, it was talking about just their experiences in Iran, their experience here, ours, how, and we just got to know each other, and it was a really cool thing. So those are some simple things you can do. Um, but and also I would say, you mentioned some host cities, but one of the things we're really wanting to emphasize is outside the host cities, it's still going to be, more of a fever pitch than it has been in past World Cups just because it's here. So that adds a layer. And so people will, now there will be a lot of people who don't care, but there will be a lot of people who care, especially those from other countries that you're typically not connecting with, right?
Yeah.
So churches are literally built in festival sites because churches already have huge screens. They already have, typically have some space, at least a big parking lot, but maybe a big field. You can do little, 7-on-7 games. You can have a mini tournament on a day, and I'll again let Roman speak to how they've done three team tournaments at a local park on a Saturday with no preparation or marketing. It doesn't have. We do everything massive here in the US. It doesn't have to be. It can just be small, especially in some of these communities. So, like Roman said, if you have access to a screen, bring a screen to a park and put it up and have the games going while you're doing a little thing. So there's all kinds of different opportunities for people to, again, what is the goal? The goal is not to do an open air revival, 4-day revival tent, big tent revival, right? That's not what this is. How can we make first connections with people so that we can continue relationship with them after that day? What does that look like? And so, Rome, why don't you just kind of take that, from there, just speak, to some of the different initiatives, and then just nationsunited.net is the not Nations United, not nationsunited.net would be the website for all this stuff. But Roman, why don't you kind of just give some more details?
I want to emphasize Phil's point about watch parties. I think especially for immigrants and refugees, majority of us have never been invited into an American household for a meal, for a hangout. I remember even moving here the first few years, maybe it was one family, two families that invited us over. And that's because we are a part of a church. But if you look at, immigrants or refugees who don't attend churches, they don't have any American friends. And I just want to encourage you during the World Cup, just invite people over. It might be your coworker, your neighbor, somebody, and that would mean so much to them, like way more than anything else in the world. And that will open conversations for, spiritual conversations, doors for you. I think
a couple of 85%. It's like 85%,
80%,
something like that.
Yeah, they say 80% of immigrants, refugees have never been invited into an American household, and I believe that stat because I see it every day. I mean, where we serve in the neighborhood, there are no Americans, period, in our area, and so that's heartbreaking because us as a refugee, as an immigrant, like you want to become friends with Americans, you want to. Especially most of us love this country. You show up into an Afghan soldier's home who've moved here, they usually will have a huge American flag in their living room hanging, on the wall, which most Americans don't have. I have to tell them that, you guys, Americans don't have American flags hanging in their living room on the wall. So just want to emphasize that. That's so easy. This World Cup, there's 106 matches that will be happening, so you're looking at 4 to 5 games per day. Anytime from depends on where you are. For me, it's from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. games, sometimes even 11 p.m. games. Just use that. We won't have time zone on our side for the next World Cup. So use that. Another idea is something we do in Houston. We call it Cup of Nations. And that's just a World Cup style event, but for the nations that live in your city. So whether it's you find teams, they form their own national teams. They come and play against each other. And then churches get to meet those nations at a tournament. And they get to actually say, hey, we used to do short mission trips to Nepal or to Mexico or to Brazil. And now you can actually meet these nations who live in your backyard without having to fly across the world. And they speak English and they would love to connect with you. And sometimes with what we do with Cup of Nations, it doesn't have to be a huge tournament. So sometimes we run a 16-team tournament, 32-team tournament. But what we love to do is we show up to a neighborhood, a community where we know so many kids from different nations are playing outside. We'll show up in the morning. We know that they're going to be playing, and we just tell them, do you want to play in a soccer tournament today? And 99.9% of the time, it's a huge yes. Like, yes, let's do soccer tournament. So then we say, all right, you have 30 minutes to go invite all your friends. Invite everybody who you want to play in this soccer tournament. As they leave, we set up soccer fields. It might be on the parking lot. We have pop-up goals that we bring. We bring, bibs. We make it look really nice for them, set up water stations. Sometimes we bring food. We divide them into teams ourselves, and then we coach them for 1 hour, and then they play against each other. And for them, that means so much already. Like, they don't need green grass fields or stadiums. They just want to play in a competitive environment, even if it's on their parking lot. And it just opens so many doors for us. We especially love doing that on Good Friday. Good Friday, no kids have school. It's in Texas, at least for now. I don't know, maybe in Washington it's different, and in California, but in Texas, no school on Good Friday. And we show up to the neighborhood and we're like, why don't you have school today? And they're like, oh, it's Good Friday. And then we're like, well, what does it mean? Well, it's Good Friday. And they just think Good Friday means it's good because there's no school. And it gives us an opportunity to share with them what Good Friday is all about. But it takes us like no planning, $100 maybe budget. And sometimes it's 150 kids that show up. I mean, it's anywhere from 50 to 150. And we get to now connect with them. So that's another easy strategy to do during the World Cup. I think another thing to consider if you're from the host cities, there's going to be, like in Houston, we're expecting 500,000 people to fly in, international fans.
Wow.
For 3 weeks that the 7 games are happening here. We're expecting 50 or so thousand people to be at the Fan Festival, the FIFA Fan Festival. So one of the things that we are doing, we're mobilizing Christians to go to the Fan Festival. You won't be allowed to do any sort of program or a big gospel outreach there, but through conversations relationally to connect with people and share the gospel with them. I'm just thinking people from Saudi Arabia are coming to Houston who've never seen a church. People from Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is playing in Houston. First time they met the World Cup. They're playing Portugal. I got the tickets, which is pretty awesome.
That's awesome, dude. Wait, what city is that game in?
In Houston. Yeah.
It's in Houston?
Houston?
You get to see Cristiano Ronaldo play against your home country. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I saw Cristiano Ronaldo score a hat trick in the 2018 World Cup in Russia against Spain. So it'll be my second
Bigger than
time.
that, Brandon, he gets to see Bruno Fernandes playing in front of against Uzbekistan. So, record holder for Manchester United, just throwing it out there. Assist records, just tied it. So anyway, go ahead, Roman.
But just getting your church to go to a fan festival, and disperse and just have conversation with international fans. I know for sure a lot of them would be interested, even for a cultural experience, to visit an American church. Like that's what they think about when they're coming here. They're like, oh, churches are everywhere. We don't really have churches. They for sure don't have mega churches. So they'll want to see something and experience something. And so I think that's a great and easy way as well to just go connect with people, have conversations with people. And it's free and it's easy to do.
Yeah, I love that.
The beauty of all of it, Brandon, we're in the 11th and a half hour right now, right? So these are all things that can be done tomorrow if you had to, right?
Yeah.
And so, church just
100%.
We have a video screen. We have this. Get a grill, barbecue up some hot dogs, hamburgers. You could have a $500 budget, and not even that. But if you spend $500 on food, drinks, open the doors, just go out in the neighborhoods. And again, this assumes most communities in the country now. I mean, outside of but most communities, especially in the bigger city area, suburbs, have a lot of people from outside the United States. They have a lot of people who are also just not, underprivileged in some way, right? And so what does that look like? How can we go and connect with those communities we never otherwise would? This gives it literally a once in every couple decade chance to go out to these communities and say, hey, there's something that we all know about and we all care about, and let's connect on that and then go
100%. Love that. Yeah, and guys, there will be some resources, Nations United, which Roman is a part of, and I know there's one, our collaborative network here in the Sound through Care Portal. We are doing stuff with Victory Beyond the Cup, which is with Campus Crusade for Christ. So I know that churches are organizing around that. There may be some stuff. There most likely are some stuff that's already happening in your neighborhood. And look, if you're not in a host city, man, all the more reason to do one of those watch parties, right? And invite people into your guys' church. I mean, my church, we did a watch party for the Super Bowl because the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl and the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. And I mean, it would be pretty easy to do that for a World Cup match as well and invite our neighbors. So
And
there's so many opportunities.
and at nationsunited.net, there literally is a watch party guide that you can go to. And there's a guide for all those things that Roman was talking about that is already there. It literally says it's free. If you even wanted to use marketing materials, there's marketing materials in there for different activities, different events that are all free. Everything the sport movement does, which is what Roman and I are a part of, is free. It's open source. You take it, you use it as your own. You know, you don't have to give credit to anybody except the Lord. You know,
Put your
yeah,
logos on it. As long as
yeah,
you don't sell it.
yeah. You just can't
That's
sell
right.
it.
Don't sell it.
Yeah.
I love this. So, guys, again, all of these are going to be in the show notes. The World Cup starts this month. Let's see, first game
June
June
11th,
11th.
June
June
11th.
11th.
Mexico versus
Mexico versus South Africa. That's right. So
Go
so many.
Bafana.
What's that?
I was saying, just go South.
Go South Africa. Yeah, there we go. I always root for the African teams,
Sorry, Pepe.
even though East African soccer is not as good as West African soccer. But I root for the West African teams, even though I've never been there. All right, let's. I don't want to miss the opportunity to also. So these links in terms of opportunities for you and your church to reach the nations as the World Cup comes through the U.S. And Mexico and Canada. We have listeners in those countries, so that
Absolutely.
would apply to you guys as well. But wherever you're
See,
listening to, it's an opportunity to connect with your neighbors. I don't want to miss an opportunity though to get some predictions here. All right, guys, let's talk sport. Let's just take a couple minutes. We're already at 45 minutes, but let's dive in. And if you want to tune out because you don't care about sports, well, that's fine with me. But do whatever.
learning posture. You got to learn more.
All right. Rapid fire. We don't have a bunch of time for analysis. People can go on ESPN or whatever.
Uzbekistan's taking home
for the
the
win.
cup. Yep.
That's a
Yep.
bold prediction. Put that on Polymarket, bud. Put that
So
on
I'm
Polymarket.
putting
You'll make a
$1
lot of
down.
money, or you're just going to lose money.
$1 down on Uzbekistan. I'll make like $100,000, I think, if they win.
That would be incredible. Hey, maybe it's worth it. Give it a shot.
Let's
I've
go.
never gambled before.
I'm gonna kick it off. I'm gonna go for what shouldn't be an underdog. I think England's gonna do it.
England? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I'm hopeful.
I like it.
England. I
You
want
got
them
Bellingham.
to win. So I'm gonna
Bellingham
go for
plays for Real Madrid. I like him. You know,
That's right.
it. Yeah.
No,
you got some good
England
players that are
absolutely
English.
not. No chance for the English. I think it's going to be in between Spain, Portugal, and France.
Portugal's not gonna win.
Yeah,
The
Spain.
Iberian
Portugal-
Peninsula.
Spain's
comes
the
down to the-
realistic
Spain-
one, I think, just because they
Portugal has
know
the
how to win
strongest
tournaments.
midfield.
Yeah, but they've
Strongest-
they've had that many times, but they're not going to win.
It's Portugal. Portugal's here. Ronaldo's going to lift
Yeah,
up
Roman's
the trophy.
going with Portugal.
That
just
would be
because-
awesome.
Ronaldo's
see
going to need a
Ronaldo?
cane by the end of the World Cup. Come on.
That's well, so long as it's the end of the World Cup, because he is going to retire soon. I think he just re-upped with his Saudi team just so that he could
Yeah.
continue in that just until the end of the World Cup. Okay, all right.
What are you
so
saying, Brandon? What's your prediction?
You know, like I said, I feel a little out of the loop because in Tanzania it was so much easier to follow soccer. Let me just ask this: I feel like Brazil's always there. Is that not going to be the case this year?
Probably not. No.
Probably
I
not.
mean,
Okay.
they're weaker this year.
Quarterfinals at most. Quarterfinals would be.
Oh wow.
That's
Okay.
Brazil.
So Spain is the front runner. Is that what it is?
I don't know who's
I
number
think
one in the
so.
world right now. I don't even know. I haven't. Is
I think
Spain
it's
number one?
Argentina. Argentina's number
Argentina
one.
would still be number one. Yeah.
Okay, well that makes sense because they.
But
yeah,
France
okay.
will always be the contender as well, just because, unless they're fighting amongst themselves like they did the one World Cup.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I like Mbappe winning it. Any Real Madrid, I'm for it.
It's my number one club. So look at us
That's your
right now.
number one club.
That's
Okay.
my number one
See,
Look at
that's
you
club.
guys
good.
bonding. Look at you guys bonding over Real Madrid, who has Mourinho now, so they're going to be good for a year and then implode, like they always do with Mourinho.
I
Well,
just
So
hate seeing us lose to Barca in La Liga,
anyway,
but
anyway,
that's what happens. Okay, all right. Well, you know what? I like, you mentioned Argentina. Maybe I don't really want to root for Messi, but
right.
I've always liked the idea of Argentina. You know what? I'll go with France. Just off the top, just pick somebody. They got Kylian Mbappe. I used to like the other guys. I always liked old school Thierry Henry, Zinedine Zidane. Like I always liked the French players, so maybe I'll go with France. I don't know if that's anti-American for me, but people know I'm not opposed to that either. No, I'm just joking.
it's either Uzbekistan or France.
One of those
So I
two, I'm
mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
one of
Yeah,
those
you
two.
can
yeah,
say that in the same
for
breath.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
No, I think
for
Um,
sure.
Pakistan is in the toughest group with Colombia, Portugal, and Congo. Congo is pretty good, CDR as well. So a lot of
oh,
Premier League players, but not going to win it. But Uzbekistan, I think, is in one of the toughest groups.
I will root for Congo. Against Portugal on June 17th. That's a tough one because I do love Ronaldo. But if you share a border with Tanzania, that's about as close as I can get to rooting for Tanzania. So maybe I'll go with the Congo.
You should,
Um,
Brandon, needs to come over for the game. It's in Houston, June
co-
17th.
oh, okay. That
Fly to
is
Miami.
probably not going to happen, but that would be awesome. That's a I love the sports talk. I can't wait for the World Cup. Before we wrap, do want to call out one. This is episode 316, so that's a good number
Yes,
for an episode
yes.
for a Christian podcast. And Phil, just quick thoughts. 10 years, 1 decade since you started this podcast. Started it in 2016. Now it's 2026.
Almost
Still
exactly,
going.
almost exactly 10 years.
316 episodes. Quick thoughts
It's crazy.
before we wrap.
I actually saw a Facebook memory pop up. I don't go on Facebook that often, but all of a sudden it popped up and it was Johnston Moore. That was the only point five episode of Think Orphan History. I believe it was either 6.5 or 7.5 because we had the first one, then we had an extra little bonus, and I thought I was being cool with this point five. It didn't stick. But I thought it was appropriate. Johnston was the guy doing that. If I know he's probably not listening, but if those who know Johnston, he's awesome. He's awesome. He and I are pretty quirky, especially when we're together. Just thoughts. I would say it just so happens my church preached on John 3:16 yesterday, so that's interesting. But I'm just so grateful. I think I said this probably in episode 300 when we got back on. I'm just so grateful all that God has done and that you have taken it on in all seriousness. Like you're doing awesome things with it, and I'm just so grateful that we get to be a part of this together and like see what God does and see my brother Roman on it and being able to share with other. No, in all seriousness, like to think of the people that we've been able to have on over the last 316 episodes is by the grace of God, and the fact that it continues, the fact that you know we've never been the biggest pod. We're not ever going to be a million download podcast. I mean, total, hopefully one day. Well, it will be. But that it's evergreen and that people can go all around the world and just learn about stuff that they never would be able to hear. And the easier it is to get internet and the easier it is to download as we, keep going through technology and improvements and all this, more and more people are going to be able to learn this really important stuff. And so keep running the race, my brother. Keep doing
It's
it. I
good.
know it's hard to do all this stuff, but it's worth it. And that's what It's like every so often you'll just hear that story of that person who's in the middle of nowhere that listened to an episode somehow and it transformed how they thought about something.
Right.
And that's why I love doing this stuff. That's why I continue doing How Soccer Explains Leadership. That's why I was grateful when you said, yeah, I'll take the reins and go with it. And and your beard keeps growing just like the podcast keeps growing. So,
That's right.
yeah. So
It's
let's
good.
keep doing
Good
it.
word.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on a decade of the podcast that you
Crazy. It's
founded.
crazy.
And may God continue to advance his kingdom. And the fact that he chooses to use a few knuckleheads like all of us
Yeah.
is a pleasure. Roman, thank you for
I
jumping.
was still older than you when I started it. That's
Oh,
crazy. Man, you are young.
oh boy, what does that mean? That just blew my
That's
mind.
crazy. And Roman was
Okay.
barely born when I started this thing.
Yeah,
He was
that's true.
actually he
Well,
was
not
already
a
in the
lot of
middle
people
of
were
his
doing
he
it.
was already in the
I know.
middle of his ministry when I started this thing. Let's be honest.
I know every
Um,
celebrity has their own podcast now, which makes it hard for schmucks like us. But 10 years is no small feat. And even starting it in 2016, that it was much more unique back then. So you had the foresight, bro.
and together,
Um,
our two podcasts have recorded over 500 episodes. So
well,
there
there
you
you
go.
go. And we will have links to how soccer explains leadership in the show if you guys want to hop over with Phil's other pod there, as well as all the links that we've been talking about, including Nations United, Victory Beyond the Cup. There are resources out there if you want to leverage this opportunity. So definitely check the show notes. Phil, great to have you back on as always. Looking forward to next time, bro. Roman, thanks for jumping on. We got the 300th timer and the first timer on this one. But Roman, great to have you on as well,
Yes.
bro.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And for our listeners, may Almighty God, who created us in his own image, grant us grace to fearlessly contend against evil and to make no peace with oppression, that we may reverently use our freedom and employ it in the maintenance of justice in our communities and among the nations, to the glory of God's holy name, through Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with the Father and the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. And we will catch you guys on the next episode of Think Global, Do Justice.